Tell me why you think that you're sitting in here.
Well, I really don't know. You saying I did it.
Right.
But I know I did it.
First time we talked, you told me that you were over at your house when you got some text messages from Andrea saying that she needed help, and that you went over there after you went and picked up Jones, that you and Jones went over there together, and that you found him. And I'm telling you right now that I can prove that's not true.
When a suspect is being interrogated, they always believe they can fool the detectives into believing they are innocent and haven't committed a crime. Suspects will persistently lie, but only the best detective can break through their defenses and get them to confess. Jacksonville, Florida, September 2018. Officers arrived at Itani Way to find the body of Andrea Washington, with 3 .25 caliber shell casings near her body, and a man who pleads not guilty. Danny Beard and his friend Marlon Jones were the first to discover the tragedy that occurred. Just hours before, Andrea was scheduled to appear in court to plead her personal protection case against Beard. Worried, Beard and Jones arrived at her home for a welfare check, only to find the naval petty officer and mother of 3 shot to death. Over the course of 3 months, detectives investigated the murder of Andrea Washington. Within that time frame, a monumental amount of evidence was found, leading detectives to believe that Danny Beard was their suspect. Despite the evidence that was stacked against him, Beard pleaded not guilty throughout the entire process and still continues to this day.
Your mom, she don't think you did it?
My mom know I did.
Okay. How do you feel about what happened to Andrea?
I feel sick about it. That's what I'm saying. I don't see why y'all messing with me.
You know, you're looking down when you say that.
Yeah,
and you can't even look me in the eye when you say that.
I'm serious because I'm tired of y'all messing with me. Y'all looking for the wrong person. Y'all looking at the wrong person.
How many times have I messed with you?
All this time y'all come to my house, get my cars.
Right.
I give you everything. That's what.
Wouldn't you want us to do that?
Yes, but I want y'all to find out who did this too.
Right. I did find out who did it.
Danny Beard and Andrea Washington had a physically abusive relationship. Though many details were not released about their prior relationship, Washington stated in her injunction of protection that Beard had thrown her to the ground, kicked her in the stomach, and chased her into the bedroom with a gun drawn. It doesn't take a professional to know that Washington was in danger. 3 hours prior to the suspected window of her death, Andrea was supposed to appear in court for a hearing. She was granted an emergency injunction of protection, but in order for an official filing, Andrea needed to plead her case to a judge. Beard appeared in court to argue the validity of her claims, and because Andrea never showed up, the judge ruled in his favor. Here in the interview room, detectives are sat with Beard, but unlike other interrogations we've seen, the lead officer doesn't try to build a bridge with Beard. For reasons unknown, the detective is extremely upfront and callous with his suspicions of Beard. All the while, Beard maintains his not guilty narrative.
I mean, you realize I have a warrant in my hand right here, right?
The warrant don't
Hear me
mean
out.
anything.
You gotta hear me out. You realize that this warrant is an arrest warrant for you, right?
Yeah.
And you realize that I had to have a state attorney, a prosecutor, review this. And I had to have evidence to get this. And then after I have a state attorney review this, you know this goes in front of a judge.
Okay.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Danny Beard begins the interview defensively and is unable to make eye contact. These traits often set off alarms for investigating officers because it's usually seen as an indicator that the person is lying. Suspects who are lying might stare straight ahead or look away from the detective during a crucial moment. Studies show that when lying, people tend to avoid contact more frequently than those telling the truth.
Well, I can tell you, Danny, that you wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't kill Andre. And this is one of those times in your life where you can make a decision to do the right thing or to keep doing what you're doing.
I didn't do this.
You did do this, Danny.
No, I didn't.
And I can prove you did it.
Okay, well, we'll prove it in court.
I'm going to. But I'm sitting here having a conversation with you. I'm hoping that you'll at least be a man and at least tell me, you know what, Detective Gibson? I screwed up.
I'm not finna say that because I know I did.
Okay.
I know I did. So I'm not finna sit there and tell you that to you.
Okay. I'm telling you that I have evidence that says otherwise.
Andrea Washington had every reason to celebrate. She was the mother of 3 beautiful sons and had just been named Navy Chief Petty Officer. Andrea, at the time, was a gas turbine mechanic for the United States Navy. She had a lot going for herself, but back at home, she was facing a tortuous ordeal. In late August, the man she was living with was Danny Beard, with whom she was in a relationship with. Beard, however, was extremely abusive. He had kicked, hit, shoved her, and even pointed a gun at her head. Beard also reportedly kicked a hole into her bedroom and closet doors, destroyed her iPad, and took the keys to her car and mailbox. These events pushed Andrea to file for a protective order. Andrea feared for her life.
First time we talked, you told me that you were over at your house when you got some text messages from Andrea.
Yes.
Saying that she needed help, and
Yes.
that you went over there after you went and picked up Jones, that you and Jones went over there together,
Yes.
and that you found her.
Yes.
And I'm telling you right now that I can prove that's not true.
During homicide investigations, suspects will be interviewed multiple times over the course of the investigation, unless a confession is received early on. Detectives will converse with the suspect, in this case Danny Beard, and ask the same or similar questions repeatedly. This is done to spot irregularities in their alibis. If someone is lying about where they were, who they were with, or what they were doing at the time of the murder, their story will change. Often it's minor details that will change, but detectives are trained to spot those minor differences. They'll ask more questions geared towards those discrepancies to see if the story will stay the same, revert back to the original, or change again. Minor detail differences are not an indication of guilt, but they will raise red flags. During what would have been a traumatic event, it's hard not to remember the events that transpired. Suspects who are trying to evade justice will find themselves struggling to remember their own lies.
Okay. I'm not saying you didn't get a charger key, but I'm telling you that you weren't over there for any 20 minutes. You were over there for some time. And you were the only one over there, because nobody else came in that house. And I know this for a fact. I'm not going to lay out my whole case, but you know how I know.
I already know who was all over her house.
Okay.
So she told me her friend D.
Yeah, her friend D left probably about 7 o'clock that night. Probably about 7:15. Somewhere in that time frame, she was gone.
The warrant for Beard's arrest describes how, sometime before 9 p.m. on September 16th, Beard had allegedly returned to the Jacksonville home that he and Washington used to share. Beard tells the detectives that he had gone over to Andrea's home with the intention of getting the Charger car key to take the vehicle for an oil change. He says that after that, he returned to his home and Andrea began texting him asking for help. The time frame Beard lays out is rocky at best, with no definitive answer. The warrant, however, describes that by using cell phone towers and electronic tracking, officers were able to show proof that Beard was in fact still at Andrea's home and had been for quite some time.
I'm giving you a chance. This is your chance, Danny. If you want to look like a monster and a cold-blooded killer, then that's what you're going to look like. But if you came over there and things just went wrong, and it was an accident, or you lost your temper, or it was a mistake, then now's the time for you to tell me. But if you want to stick to the fact that we're crazy and all this evidence I have is bullshit, you're going to look terrible. Okay, people understand when people screw up and make a mistake.
I didn't make no mistake because I know I didn't do this. I put my right hand to God, I didn't do this.
So, why did you tell me you didn't own a gun?
I didn't, she did.
No, you told me that you didn't own a gun.
I never owned a gun.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. She had a little, I mean, when I first got to Florida, I had a 25. She had a 22.
Mm-hmm.
And she kept it up in a box in her closet.
In most cases, detectives will try to build a bridge with the suspect by making them feel comfortable and less like they're in trouble. Detective Gibson did not favor that approach. Investigators had compiled DNA and electronic data that puts Beard in Andrea's home at the time of her death. The interviews following the collection of evidence are customary, in which detectives are giving Beard the chance to confess now and potentially lessen the time he'll spend in prison. If you hadn't noticed, when Detective Gibson was questioning Beard about whether he owned a gun or not, Beard stammers quite a bit. He's playing it off as he's never owned a gun. To when he first moved to Florida, he did, but now he doesn't. However, the .25 caliber shell casings found at the crime scene line up nearly too coincidentally to the gun Beard says he used to own.
And now I know things were rough with you guys, and I know they were up and down. And I know that isn't totally your fault. I know that she was still talking to you, and I think you were probably thinking she was leading you on. But I'm telling you right now, if you stick to this, you're going to look like a cold-blooded murderer. And that's what you're going to look like. All this evidence right here is you. If you flip about right in here, these are all discs. Surveillance discs, stuff I pulled off your car disc, things that I pulled off of your phone, things I pulled off of your Facebook. I've been pretty busy the last couple months. Okay, and I'm not going to step to you if I don't know what I'm doing.
Marlon Jones, among other testimonies, stated that he had seen Beard with the .25 caliber gun inside his home. Testimonies can often change the course of an investigation, but because it's a he said, she said situation, they can't be viewed as hard evidence. However, with Beard claiming that he owned a gun of the same caliber, it becomes harder to dismiss. Beard continually states that he didn't commit murder and that he knows he's innocent, but his body language may suggest otherwise. He keeps his hands in an upright position close to his face. Beard was likely feeling trapped and exposed during the interview, thus trying to hide himself and ease his anxiety. This is extremely defensive body language for someone who is claiming innocence.
You're going to be booked in tonight on this warrant, okay?
Okay.
I'm not going to sit in here with you all night. If you, like I said, I've already said this. If you're going to look like you want to look like a monster, that's on you. At least when I get done with this and I put my file together, I'll be able to walk over to the state attorney's office and I'll say, "Hey, I talked to Danny Beard not once and not twice. Here you go. Here's all the evidence." He said he don't know nothing about nothing.
I ain't say I ain't know nothing about nothing.
Okay, then what do you know? If you know nothing about, if you know something, tell me what you know.
I told you, I'm telling you now, I did not do this.
Okay, then who did it?
How do I know? That's y'all job to find out.
Well, I found out.
We did. Okay, well, we'll see in court.
Danny Beard was ultimately found guilty for the slaying of Chief Petty Officer Andrea Washington. He was sentenced to 30 years in jail with a chance of parole after 25 years. The time following his sentencing, Beard requested several times to appear before a judge and appeal for a retrial. He also sent several letters to the judge begging to be freed and claiming his innocence. In June of 2023, Danny Beard finally pled guilty to his crimes, after serving nearly 4 years of his sentence. Andrea Washington's memory will live on with her 3 sons and shipmates.